The Indianapolis Colts have had 3 major helmet redesigns since they started in 1953. We are going to be going over these helmet designs from when the Super Bowl started, 1967, and basically they started with a very common helmet at the time, white with a gray face mask and blue decals.
Yeah, and they've always had those numbers that were just too huge.
So from the Super Bowl up until 1977, that's what they wore. It was pretty basic, and I gotta say, probably one of my least favorite looks, you know, just a gray face mask on a white helmet. And there's not really any gray anywhere else in their uniforms. But we're gonna be going over this helmet, and we've got 31 other teams in the playlist. So if you're not a fan of the Colts, go find your team. You can check out those helmets, and if you're an equipment fan and you're kind of geeking out on this stuff, then go watch them all.
Yeah, exactly. Enjoy.
1967, that's kind of when they started going to Super Bowls, right? They weren't in the first one.
They were in the 3rd and the 5th one in this very helmet.
Yeah, so they were kind of a mainstay back then, and then they kind of went through a bad patch that lasted quite some time, and maybe that's why they started changing things up, thinking it would make a difference.
I guarantee you.
It feels like with the Colts, there's some superstition involved with all the little changes that happen along the way. This design that I'm looking at right here on the table is the same design that they started with.
Yeah, they went right back to it. Even though they were the Baltimore Colts, they said, we're going back.
They had 2 Super Bowls in Baltimore.
Yep.
Changed a bunch of things, didn't do very well with any of those changes, and then went back to their original design and went back to some more Super Bowls.
That's right.
Should there be some superstition involved? I don't know. Well, let's get into some of those other designs. How's that? So big change was that they went from gray face masks to white face masks. I think that's a much cleaner look, but on those old helmets, to me, it feels boring. On the new helmets that we have now, the Speed Flexes, the F7s, the Vicis, oh man, white on white just looks sexy.
It's beautiful, especially with that nice blue of the horseshoe and those gigantic numbers. In the middle of this helmet era was the transition in 1984 to Indianapolis.
So Steve, the Colts were a little bit ahead of their time. That his helmet with the white face mask, they had the Colts on the front bumper, where most teams at that time, it just said the brand of the helmet.
Yeah, that's unheard of, and I like it.
The Colts, interestingly enough, like the word Colts, got this big, long, wide back bumper, and they took it and they squished it really tight.
Yeah.
Let's get into the next big design change would be them switching from a white face mask to a blue face mask.
Yeah, 1995 they made that switch, and I don't know, they really like that horseshoe on this side, don't they? Because they're trying everything else.
I like the horseshoe on the side. I think it makes sense, but you could, I mean, other things that they could do.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Like a Colt.
But they gotta, where else are they supposed to put the horseshoes if they're gonna have these huge numbers on the back?
Right. No,
Well,
I get it.
Well, they figure that out. So the blue face mask, I'm gonna say this is my favorite design of theirs that I would kind of wish that they would go back to. Anything but the gray face mask.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And what I remember most with this design is 1998, Peyton Manning coming on board. I was really into football at that time, you know, more so than when I was a younger guy. And man, Peyton changed that quarterback position. So that helmet was getting a lot of TV time.
So in 2004, on Thanksgiving versus my Detroit Lions, they pulled out the horseshoes on the back of the helmet, which they had done back in the 50s. I think that those look pretty cool, but it was just all white on the sides. I think it would be kind of cool if they put the numbers on the sides, like maybe do a one side like Alabama or something like that, and then put the horseshoes on the back.
I like the idea of, you know, going with the logo on one side and the numbers on the other.
So in 2010, they did something pretty interesting. They switched their white helmet to blue. Stuck with the gray face mask, the horseshoes were on the back, had a white stripe down the center. They only wore that helmet twice, but they wore it for one preseason game and then one game in 2010 against the Eagles. So in addition to this one game, really, this one regular season game in 2010, they did have blue helmets for a little while in the 50s. So maybe that's something, but I don't know how many people would have known that because TV was black and white.
That's a great point. And we might do another series in the future where we go pre-Super Bowl era. And
well, now we're talking all about
suspension helmets and leather caps. Yeah. And oh my God.
In 2004, we went back to this very design right here.
Yeah, we sure did. Like the exact same thing.
We've got some slight changes coming here with this design. They, in 2020, I believe, the only really change on the helmet was the font on the bumpers, on the front and the back.
I really, really like the Colts, the way it's written on the front. Looks awesome.
We've gone over all the white helmets. Now we got to talk about their alternate helmet that they're wearing right now, and that's the change to all black.
Drastic change, and as far as the helmet is concerned, I kind of love it.
I like it too, but it has some interesting things in it. First off, satin black, which I like. Black face mask. The stripes and the horseshoes have a nice little white border around them, kind of that sets things off a little bit.
I think that this is a great alternate for the helmets. I'm excited to see them wear this. I don't know, it's pretty cool. And I always like that total juxtaposition to their standard look. Bright white or total black.
100% agree with you. It makes a lot of sense. I still think I like the helmet with the horseshoes on the back a little bit better.
So this was for all the Colts fans. If this wasn't your team, don't worry. Check out the playlist with all 31 other teams.